Okay, perfect. So as you know, today we are going to be doing standard costing, correct? So before we get into the topic of standard costing, let's give you a brief about what is standard costing. So generally what happens is organizations have three types of costs that they will calculate. One is a budgeted cost. Second will be a standard cost. And third will be the actual cost. What is the difference between the three? Budgeted cost is something like, sorry for that. Budgeted cost is something like, I as an organization wants to spend 5 lakhs on producing new cars this month. That is a budget that I keep. That 5 lakh is my budget that I'm setting aside for producing cars. Now, what happens? Actual reality comes. Some issue from the vendor, some issues from the demand, all that issues happen, and actually, you're able to only get a demand of. So, you initially you predicted that you will be selling 5,000 cars. So, because of that, you put predicted 5 lakh of cost. But what happens? You actually end up spending, selling only 2,000 cars. So, your cost automatically reduces. So, for 2,000 cars, let's say the cost, if you do a pro rata, it should come to 3 lakhs, let's say. But you ended up spending 4 lakhs. So for the actual output of 2000 cars, what was the standard cost? 3 lakhs. So that becomes your standard cost. And what is your actual cost that you spent? That is your 4 lakhs. So roughly, just to give you an idea, these are the three types of costings that every organization will have. What is your budgeted? What is your actual? And what is your standard cost for that actual output? Okay, so this is just a brief to be given. So it's a cost for the actual output. In if the normal prices would have prevailed, like what you had predicted, if that would have prevailed, that is your standard cost that would have been there. So how do we calculate these variances? First, we will calculate a standard cost that is for the actual output. Then we calculate the actual cost that you have actually ended up spending. And then we will find the variance for that. So this is very simple, brief, but when you get into the details, lots of complications are there. So be very careful and keep your mind completely alert in every point that I'm telling you. We will not be mugging up any formulas, but concepts have to be very clear for you to not be able to mug up. Because if you're not able to clear your concepts, then a lot of mugging up will happen and that will just cause confusion in the exam. So please keep the concepts clear in this chapter. So I hope it's clear so far. Yeah. If anybody has any questions, please message right away and I will resolve that query. So what we'll be looking at is four types of cost variances: material cost, labor cost, variable overheads, and fixed overheads. Till now, I hope everybody has gone through material chapter, labor chapter, and overheads chapters, correct? And in this three, we have looked at only these four components, which is material, labor, fixed overheads, and variable overheads. So we will look at the variances that we can calculate for all. So let's begin with the first type, which is material cost variance. So if you can see this chart, you can see that the top variance is the material cost variance. Under it, we have two, which is material price variance and material usage variance. Under usage, we have mix variance and yield variance. Keep the mix variance and yield variance aside. What you need to understand is everything that comes under this cost variance, if I add the price variance plus the usage variance, it has to add up to the total cost variance. Clear? So your material cost variance will always be equal to your price variance and the usage variance. So let's just briefly understand what is this cost variance, price variance, and usage variance. Material cost variance is basically company buys some material, correct? And it has estimated that for this much output that has been sold, this is the cost that should have been incurred. So what is the deviation from the standard cost? So your standard total cost, material cost minus your actual material cost is your total material cost variance. Now, what can happen in an organization is this variance that happens can be either due to a change in the price, that before I thought vendor will sell the product to me for 500 rupees, but now it's sold it at 600 rupees. So there is a price variance. So that issue will be dedicated to the price variance. But maybe it's not the price. Maybe the price was the same. What you thought the standard price was, that is only the price. The issue is that you ended up wasting a lot of material while producing the output. So there is a usage variance, right? So material cost is your total variance that could be caused due to the price change, or it could be caused because of a usage difference. Is everybody clear so far with what is material cost, what is material price variance, and what is material usage variance? Any questions so far? All clear? Okay. Anybody has any doubt, then I will repeat it. Okay, perfect. So now let's get into the details of what is material cost variance. Remember one thing. For material cost variance, two things you need to know: price and quantity. Price at which you are buying the input, quantity of input you are using. These two components will be utilized in the whole of material cost variance, price and quantity, right? Then you get into the details of what kind of components you have to get. So you can see SP, AP, SQ, AQ. What is all this? SP. SP is the standard price for that unit. That is, I should have gotten it at this standard price. Correct? That is your standard price per unit used. Please remember, per unit used. That is input. Material cost variance is on your input, not on the output. Output is not material. Output is finished goods. This is an input. So you have to take the material cost for the input. So standard price per unit used. Then actual price per unit used. Maybe it became 600 rupees. Standard quantity input for the actual output. I should have used, let's say we are producing a car. I should have used one battery for each car. So the standard input is how much? One battery. So that is the SQ. Then we have something called AQ. AQ is what? If you utilize more than one battery, like for example, two batteries. So that will become your actual quantity, what you actually ended up using. So far, so good. Everybody is clear with what are these 4 points? Standard price, actual price, standard quantity, and actual quantity. All good so far? Clear. Okay. So now let's look at the first part, which is material cost variance. What is material cost variance? Material cost variance, like I told you, is the total. If you go back over here, it is the major total. So the total difference between the standard material cost minus the actual material cost is your material cost variance. So if we go back to material cost variance, your material cost variance in short form MCV is equal to standard cost minus actual cost. Standard cost is what? Standard price into standard quantity. If you go back here, standard price used per unit into the standard quantity of input for the actual output. Okay. And actual cost is what? What is the actual quantity you have used into the actual price? So therefore, how can we define material cost variance as standard cost minus actual cost? What is standard cost? SP into SQ. And what is actual cost? AQ into AP. Is everybody clear here, or is there any doubts here? We will be doing an example so that you are clear with this. After the example, if there's some doubt, again, I shall repeat this concept. Okay. So let's take this example. We are producing 500 cars. We need to, so what is 500 cars? 500 cars becomes my actual output. We need two batteries for each car. The standard price for each battery is 300 rupees. We actually paid 400 rupees for each, and we actually used one battery for each car. Calculate the material cost variance. What is it, the question saying? Actual output is given to be 500 cars. How many batteries you need as per standard? Two batteries. This is your standard input, which is nothing but your SQ. The standard price for each battery is 300 rupees, becomes your SP, standard price. But we actually ended up paying 400 rupees. So this becomes your AP, actual price. We actually used one battery for each car. So this will become my AQ, actual quantity used for the actual output. Calculate the material cost variance. So if you look here, we first always have to make a table. What does the table show? What will be my actual output? What is the standard quantity for my actual output? It's always standard quantity for my actual output, standard input and actual input. Question is given two batteries, right? So for 500 cars, how many batteries would I need? 500 cars into two batteries because each car says two batteries. So the total standard input will be 1000 batteries. And in case of actual input, we use only one battery. So 500 cars into one battery, which becomes 500 batteries. So this way we get our SQ and our AQ. So SQ is 1000 batteries. SP is already given to be 300 rupees. AQ is 500 batteries. AP is given to be 400 rupees each. So we have found out all the components, SQ, SP, AQ, AP, all the components we need for our material cost variance. So now we go down to our material cost variance. We do SP into SQ, which is my standard cost. So that is 1000 batteries into 300 rupees minus actual quantity into actual price, which is 500 into 400 rupees. That is my actual material cost. So this difference will give me my material cost variance. So let's try to calculate this and see. So 1000 into 300 rupees will give me 300,000 minus 500 into 400 rupees will give me 2 lakhs. So this will give me a variance of 1 lakh. Is everybody clear so far? Is there any doubts, any questions, something that was not clear here? Is everybody clear with SQ, SP, AQ, AP? Anything that you couldn't feel? Yes, Sana, that's correct. 1 lakh is the answer. Anybody who feels like they could not follow or something that you feel like you still have to mug up the formula. Is there anything anybody wants me to repeat? Hmm. Did everybody understand this calculation? Clear? Thank you, Atira. Thank you, Sana. How about the others? Okay. Thank you, Neetu. Is there any confusion? Let me know. I'll clarify. Thank you. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Mashuk. Okay. So I'm assuming everybody is clear with this. Correct? Okay. Perfect. So I don't want anybody mugging up any formulas here. Be very clear. Cost variance is standard cost minus actual cost. And that is SQ into SP minus AQ into AP. Right? That shouldn't be of a confusion. So now let's understand how to calculate whether it is favorable or adverse. So one hack I will tell you in any question to understand something is favorable is when you have spent less. When you have spent less, in reality, that is the best favorable situation for you. If you have spent more, it is an unfavorable situation. So here, if you can see, our actual, which is AQ into AP, is actually only 2 lakhs. So 3 lakhs is what we thought we should spend. We actually ended up spending only 2 lakhs. So what do you think? This is a favorable 1 lakh difference or it's an unfavorable adverse variance that we have here? Since our actual cost is lesser, do you think it's favorable or adverse? Yes, Neetu says it's favorable. How about the others? Correct. So it is favorable. So remember one thing, anything will be favorable when it is beneficial for you or lesser cost or you've used lesser quantity. So anywhere where you are reducing your cost, because this is standard costing, right? So whenever you're reducing your cost, that is be a favorable situation. So don't remember it like, oh, okay, so if the left hand side is more than the right hand side, no, don't think of it like that. Very logically, standard minus actual. If actual is beneficial, that means it is lesser. The cost is lesser. So that means it will be a favorable situation. So I hope it is clear so far. Now let's move to the next point, which is our material price variance. So if you remember the chart, we had material cost, under it comes price variance and usage variance. So when we calculated cost variance, we took the total standard cost and total actual cost. Now here we will specifically look at the price variance. Now let's see what is a price variance. It measures the variances that arises in material cost due to the difference in the material purchase price from the standard material price. So let's look at MPV. MPV is your material price variance. That is your standard price minus actual price for the actual quantity purchased. Why are we not using for the standard quantity purchased? No, because payment is made for the actual quantity purchased, right? You will not make it for the standard quantity that you have purchased, standard SQ. So you will make it only for the AQ. Please remember this. Whenever you're talking about a price variance, a rate variance, the payment is always made for actual quantity that you are receiving. So you will always use actual quantity here. You will never use standard quantity. So how does the formula go? It will be SP minus AP into AQ. That is your standard price minus your actual price into for your actual quantity used. So this will be my price variance. So in the same above example, if you look, what is that price variance? What is my standard price here? My standard price is 300 rupees and my actual price is 400 rupees. So that will be 300 minus 400 rupees into 500 batteries. 500 batteries. Please remember actual quantity used. Do not take your standard quantity used because you are not paying for the standard quantity. You are paying for the actual quantity. What you receive is what you're paying for. So price variance, anything relating with the price variance will be on the actual input. So here we will do 300 minus 400 into 500 rupees. So that is coming to 50,000 negative. Correct? Now, what do you think? Is this favorable or adverse? Taslima says adverse, Mashuk says adverse, perfect. So this is an adverse situation. Can you explain why you said it is adverse? Anybody can tell me why is it adverse? Okay, Khatija says negative figure. That is one way. But what if in the exam you sit and do AP minus SP into AQ? You know that it is standard price minus actual price. It will come a positive figure. Then what you will do? Exactly. Actual price is more than standard price. Perfect. So you have ended up paying more for the good. So that is the reason why it is adverse. I hope it's clear so far. Can I proceed with the next type of variance? Yes, Khatija. Everybody clear with material price variance? Okay. All right. Perfect. Now let's go into the next one, which is our material usage variance. What is usage variance? How much we should have consumed versus how much we have actually consumed. So what will be our concept here? Material usage variance is our standard quantity, which we should have used, minus our actual quantity for the standard price. Now you'll be like, for material price usage, we used for actual quantity. We multiplied with actual quantity. But for material usage variance, we are multiplying with standard price. I'm getting confused here. How? Please remember, here we are talking about a price variance. When it is a price variance, you are making the payment for actual quantity, not for standard quantity. And when you are talking about usage variance, you are only focusing on the usage difference. We are not looking at whether there is a price difference here. So our logic is at the standard price, what we had decided, if we check how much we have consumed differently, what will be the variance? Because price variance, we have already calculated it separately. So here we will always keep it as standard price. We will not bring in the actual price and confuse ourselves. It will remain as standard price only. So our material usage variance will be standard quantity minus actual quantity at the standard price itself. We don't bring in our actual price only. Because actual price minus standard price, we are checking it in material price variance. Here we only want to focus on our usage variance, which is SQ minus AQ. So now if you look at the formula, it is SQ minus AQ. What is the standard quantity that we calculated above? 1000 batteries. And what is the actual quantity we ended up using? 500 batteries. What is the standard price? 300 rupees, correct? Over here, if you see, it is 300 rupees. So, what is our final output? It's coming to 1,50,000. What do you think? This is favorable or unfavorable? Favorable or adverse? Favorable. Athira says favorable. How about the others? Taslima says favorable. Correct. It's favorable. The simple logic is because we have ended up using lesser batteries. So please keep logic in mind always. You can see that you should have used 1,000, but you used only 500 batteries. So very good. You have saved on the usage. So that becomes a favorable situation for you. So now always cross check. The material price variance should always, your material cost variance should always be equal to your material price variance plus your material usage variance. So if I go above, my material cost variance came to 1 lakh, correct? Favorable. My material price variance came to 50,000 adverse, and my material usage variance came to 150,000 favorable. So I can say that MPV, material cost variance, should be equal to material price variance plus my material usage variance. So that implies 1 lakh favorable should be equal to MPV, which is 50,000 negative plus MUV, usage variance, which is 1,50,000 positive. So are we getting same? Yeah. Have we been able to verify the two? Our MCV is equal to MPV plus MU. Is everybody clear so far? Any concept which you need more clarity on, something you couldn't understand? Somewhere you feel like, no, I think I will have to mug up the formula. Because I don't want anybody mugging up formulas here. Once you understand this clearly, all the other variances will become very easy for you. So this concept has to be very clear that our total cost variance is standard minus actual. Our price variance is the standard price minus actual price for actual quantity, the actual that we are using. And our usage variance will always be our standard quantity minus actual quantity for the standard price, not the actual price, because price variance is calculated separately. Is this clear, everybody, so far? Thank you, Khatija. So just to do a recap, everybody tell me what is material cost variance? Can somebody tell me the formula in the chat box? Chart. Can everybody tell me what is material cost variance? Yes, Khatija says SQSP minus AQAP. Perfect. Others, I would like to hear from everybody. Perfect. AD said standard cost minus actual cost. Perfect, AD. So what is standard cost, if I may ask? How do we calculate a standard cost in terms of material cost variance? Let me know, anybody in the chat box, what is your standard cost? What two things when you multiply you get a standard cost? And what two things when you multiply you get an actual cost? SQ into SP. Perfect. Neetu. And what is actual cost? Perfect. That is a standard cost. Perfect, Aslima. And can you also tell me what is it for the actual cost? AQ into A. Perfect. So I hope this is clear so far, right? What is your material cost variance? Now coming to our price variance. What is the price variance? Don't tell me the formula, just tell me what is the price variance? Between what two prices are we checking the variance? Is it budgeted price? Is it standard price? What price? Between which two prices are we checking the variance? SP minus AP. Perfect, Sana. And we are doing this for the actual quantity or for the standard quantity? Price is always paid for actual quantity or standard quantity. Taslima says AQ, Sana says AQ. How about the others? AQ. Why not SQ? ED, perfect. Perfect, Sana. So I think everybody has understood price variance. So let's move into usage variance now. Can somebody tell me what is usage variance? SQ minus AQ. What is SQ minus AQ, Sana? Why are we doing that? SQ is standard output or standard quantity for actual output. How about the others? What is usage variance, everybody? What are the two components we are checking in usage variance? Need to perfect. SQ minus AQ at standard price. Perfect. And why are we using standard price here? Why not actual price? Difference in quantity at standard price. Perfect, AD. So why is it standard price? Why don't we take actual price here? Exactly, because price variance is calculated separately. Okay, perfect, Shan, perfect, Neetu. I think everybody is clear now. Cost variance, price variance, usage variance. These three concepts, if it is perfectly clear, everything will run smoothly now. Okay. So now let's move into so if you see the chart, under usage variance, there's two more variances. It gets a little more complicated here. We have mix variance and a yield variance. No, nothing difficult. What is a mix variance? So it is basically now just like how price variance plus usage variance is equal to cost variance. Similarly, mix variance plus yield variance will give me usage variance. Usage variance we know standard quantity minus actual quantity for the standard price. So if you go down now, we have calculated the usage variance. Now let's calculate the material mix variance. What is this mix variance? Variance in the material consumption may arise due to difference in proportion actually used from the standard mix or proportion. So before I get into the example, please remember that companies can produce multiple products, right? And they can keep producing and the input for it will be interchangeable sometimes, isn't it? that you might need the same input for multiple outputs. So in that situation, what the costing says is that how about we change the proportion in which they are used and then check the variance. Okay, don't get confused. Let's look at this example. So a company is producing two types of cars. That means two types of outputs. For car 1, we need two batteries and the standard cost for each battery is 500 rupees. Okay, output 1 is car 1. You need two batteries each and the standard cost is 500 rupees. For car 2, we need three batteries and the standard cost for each battery is 400 rupees. But actually, for car 1, we used three batteries and for car 2, we ended up using seven batteries. So you can see input is the same input, but the car is different. Let's say car 1 is a Toyota and car 2 is a Nissan. Just random example. But the battery both they are using is the same, right? A Kia or a Toyota, whatever. The battery they're using is the same. So since the battery is the same, we can kind of try to see from a costing perspective, tweak the proportion in which they are used and see the variance. So that is called mix variance. Let's mix up the type of the proportion in which they're used and then check the variance. So how do we do that? So we know the actual output, car 1, car 2, 1 unit each. We are taking as one car produced. What is the standard input already given? Two, it's already given. Two batteries and three batteries is required. What did we actually use? Three batteries and seven batteries. So now what we do is we calculate something called as the revised actual input. What is the revised actual input? Whatever is the actual input, we will tweak the proportion as the standard proportion. Standard proportion is what? 2 by 5 and 3 by 5, correct? Now this 10 which we have used total actual, we will make it in the proportion of 2 by 5 and 3 by 5. And we'll calculate a revised actual input. This is called my RSQ. So 10 into 2 by 5 is giving me 4. And 10 into 3 by 5 is giving me 6. So in simple words, your actual input which you used, which is my total 10 batteries, at the standard proportion. Okay, so we calculate a new part called RSQ, which is 4 and 6, which gives me a 10. This is nothing but if I had used my total 10 batteries in the same proportion as my standard input. So this is what we calculate for our mix variance. For mix variance and yield variance, we will need to calculate a new component called the RSQ. So what is this mix variance? MMV, which is the revised actual input, which we just calculated, minus the actual input for the standard price. Okay, now you'll be getting confused. Why standard price? Why actual price? Always remember, when we are calculating a quantity variance, price will be standard because price variance is already calculated. Never ever bring actual price because price variance is already calculated. So it will remain at standard price. So when we look at MMV's formula, which is our mixed variance, it is our RSQ, which is our revised actual input, minus our AQ, which is our actual input which we've used at the standard price. So that is, let's say for car 1, it is 4 batteries, which is our RSQ, minus 3 batteries at 500 rupees, which is my standard rate. So how much does that come to? 500 rupees, correct? One battery into 500 rupees, which is 500 rupees. So now if you see, is this favorable or adverse? What have you actually used? 3 batteries. What is the revised coming to? 4 batteries. Haven't you actually used lesser? It's a favorable situation. Okay. Had it been more, you had used more than the revised standard actual quantity, it would have been an adverse situation. Coming to car 2. Car 2 used 6 batteries minus 7 batteries. 6 minus 7. So 6 is what you should have used if it was in the right proportion, but 7 is what you have actually used at 400 rupees. So this gives me a total of 400 rupees. Can somebody tell me in the chat box, is this a favorable situation or an adverse situation? Sana says adverse. How about the others? Neetu says adverse. Chestnut says adverse. Okay, perfect. So it is adverse. Can somebody also tell me why is it adverse? Just in brief, why is it adverse? Actual is more than standard. Just now, this is not standard. Remember, this is actual only, but in the standard mix. Okay, don't think this is standard because standard then we are doing that in separately, na, in usage variance. This is actual, but in standard mix. Actual in actual mix is more. That is why there is a problem here. Had we used it at least in the standard mix, we would have been using lesser batteries. That's what it is trying to say. So is material mix clear? Mix variance. It's between the revised actual input and the actual input at standard price. All clear? Okay. Thank you, Neetu. How about the others? Any confusion? Everybody clear on how to calculate the revised actual input? Clear. Okay. So shall I proceed with the next one now? The last type is called the material yield variance. So material yield variance will also come from this material mix variance. But if you see material mix variance, we are subtracting the revised actual input from the actual input. In yield variance, what we do is we subtract the standard quantity from the revised standard quantity. That is okay. Now what we are saying is, let's say the organization, it used this much, 3 and 7. But let's give it a little bit of a situation where let's revise the proportion because we ended up using 10. Let's just mix the proportion and see. We got 4, 6. Correct? Now let's compare it with the standard input. In material usage variance, we just took the total, right? We did not look into the mix. We just compared standard with the actual. Now what we are doing is we are comparing the standard with the revised actual. We are saying that let's say we have a situation where we have used it in this proportion. Then are we doing a good job or no? So let's see that. So material yield variance is our standard quantity minus revised actual quantity at the standard price. Always standard price. So that is SQ minus RSQ into SP. Right? SQ minus RSQ into SP. SP is our standard price. So let's say for car 1, 2 batteries, that is our standard, minus RSQ, which is 4, at our standard price, which is 500 rupees, given in the question. So that will come to 2 batteries into 500 rupees, which is 1000 rupees. Can somebody tell me, is this favorable or unfavorable? Standard is 2 batteries. The revised actual input is 4 batteries. Is this a good situation or a bad situation? Sana says adverse. Okay. How about the others? Adverse. Correct. Can somebody tell me why is it adverse? Because even though this is your revised input, it is all, but it is your actual input. You know, you have actually used the 10, right? So whenever you can compare revised actual also, you have to consider it as your actual and then see it as the variance. So what have you actually used? 4 batteries. So that is worse than using 2 batteries, and that is why it becomes an adverse situation. Clear? Let's look at car 2. Car 2 standard quantity is 3 batteries. It ended up using 6 batteries. What is the variance here? 3 into 400 rupees, which is 1200 rupees. Can somebody tell me, is this adverse or favorable? Along with the reason. Anybody? Adverse, more priority is used than standard. Perfect, ED. Everybody else, you're following, right? Not seeing much response in the chat box. Just let me know, is this adverse or favorable, this situation? Adverse. Actual is more than standard. Perfect, Neetu. Perfect. So this is adverse. So I hope it's clear what is the difference between a mixed variance and a yield variance. In mixed variance, we compared the actual with the revised actual. In yield variance, we compare the standard with the revised actual input. Okay. So now that we have covered all the components of material, we will get into a few questions so that your concepts become more clear. But you need to constantly keep looking at this concept because it will get confusing. We have so many things. Like in the span of 1 hour, now we have already gone through about 5 formulas. So immediately in the exam, when they will ask you a question, calculate the cost variance, calculate the yield variance, calculate the mix variance. So it has to quickly click you what has to come where. When the concepts are clear, it will automatically click, but you have to practice more. So till now, is everybody clear? Everybody's comfortable with all the formulas, anything that you could not understand? How about we do a quick recap? Can somebody tell me the formula for material cost variance? And then we'll move into the questions. Let me know the formula for material cost variance. SQSP minus AQAP. Thank you, Khatija. Thank you, Neetu. Perfect. Can somebody tell me the formula for price variance? I hope you're remembering the concepts and you have not mugged up these formulas. Material price variance, everybody. SQSP minus AQSP. Khatija, this one you have answered for price variance. Neetu has said SP into SQ, AP into AQ. Yes, this is for cost variance. I'm talking about price variance now. Yes, that's correct, Taslima. That's correct, Jasnath. SP minus AP into AQ. So AQ, always remember it's AQ because you pay for the actual quantity. Okay? Okay, now let me know usage variance. Can you type out what is usage variance? Khatija, perfect. Taslima, perfect. Yes. How about the others? That's correct, Jasnath. Okay. Then material mix variance. Can somebody tell me what is material mix variance? RSQ minus EQ into SP. Perfect. Yes, perfect, Neetu. Perfect, Khatija. Perfect. So mixed variance is between revised and actual. And what is yield variance? SQ minus RSQ into SP. Perfect, Neetu. How about the others? Yield variance. That's correct, Taslima. Great. Okay, perfect, Jasna. So I think everybody is more or less clear with these 5 formulas. Nobody needs to mug this up. Everybody in the exam, because in the exam you have too many things to remember. If you sit and mug up these formulas, definitely you will make a blunder. So please remember the concepts well. So now let's proceed with our questions. First, we will look at illustration number. So let's take our PDF. I hope everybody has the PDF with them. Okay, so we have page number 19, 18, 19 is where our illustration number 2 is. So looking at illustration 2. So come back to your PDF. Let's have a quick look at this question. Okay, so NXE concern furnishes the following information. Standard and actual. Standard is saying the material that is standard required for 70 kg of finished products is 100 kg. The price of the material is rupees 1 per kg. Standard quantity, standard price, already given. Actual output 2,10,000 kg. Material used, actual input, AQ 2,80,000 kg. Cost of material 2,52,000. So this is cost of total material. We generally will need the per unit, right? So here they've already given the total cost. That is AQ into AP they've already given 2,52,000. Now, calculate the material usage variance, material price variance, and the material cost variance. Okay. So let's look at how we will go about it. So always remember, make this kind of a table. That what is your actual output here? Actual output is 2,10,000 kg. So what is 2,10,000 kg? Okay. That is your total output that has been produced. Now, what is the standard quantity which will be required for 2,10,000 kg? We know that for 70 kgs of a finished product, we require 100 kgs. So how much will it be for 2,10,000 kgs? We make a quick working here. So for 100 kgs, sorry, for 70 kgs, we are using 100 kgs of input. So for 2,10,000, how much we will use? 70 into, sorry, 2,10,000 into 100 by 70. Correct? Everybody clear here? 3 lakhs. Perfect, ready. So this is nothing, unitary method. So this will give us our standard input of 3 lakhs. Correct? And what is our actual input? It's already given to be 2,80,000. Material used. Actual material used 2,80,000. This will be 2,80,000. Okay. So what can we infer from here? What is our standard quantity? 3 lakhs. What is our actual quantity? 2,80,000. What is our standard price? Standard price is given to be rupees 1. 1 rupee. And what is our actual price? Can somebody tell me what is the actual price per unit? Does not says 0.9. Perfect. I hope you're not looking at the solution, right? Please don't look at the answers. 0.9. Jasnath, can you tell me how? Two lakh 52 by 2,80,000. Perfect. So if you do just divide the total cost by the quantity, you will get the actual price, right? So 2 lakh 52,000 divided by 2,80,000. That will give me my actual price. Everybody clear with this? Four components you have understood. Once you understand the four components, the question is easy to solve. SQ, AQ, SP, AP. Clear, everybody? Anybody stuck? Anything you can't understand? How we calculated what? Shall I proceed? All clear, everybody? I'm not having any response in the chat box. Okay, thank you, Taslima. Thank you, Neetu. Okay, so I hope everybody has got these four amounts. So it's very simple. Material cost variance. Now you tell me from the chat box. I'm not going to answer. Tell me, what is material cost formula? Material cost variance, everybody. What is material cost variance formula? Thank you, Taslima. So she says SQ into SP minus AQ into A. Now, what is SQ into SP? 3 lakh into 1, correct? That will give me 3 lakhs. Minus, what is AQ into AP? 2,52,000. So what is the total amount? 48,000. What is this? Adverse or favorable or adverse? Perfect. Because actual is lesser. Okay. Now next. What is the MPV formula? SQ minus AQ into SP. Okay. Taslima, price variance. We are looking at the difference in the price, not quantity. SP minus AP into AQ. I hope you understood, Taslima. What you have given me is usage variance. Yes, remember price variance, SP minus AP, price variance. Okay, so like you said, SP minus AP into actual quantity because you will always pay for the actual quantity. Can somebody tell me what is SP minus AP? 1 minus 0.9 into AQ. What is AQ? AQ is 2,80,000. So what is the final amount? 28,000. Favorable. Perfect. Why favorable? Because I have spent lesser. My actual price is lesser. Now, material usage variance. What's the formula? Usage. SPS minus AQSP. Khatija. Yes. SQSP minus AQSP. Yes. So standard price. Good. So this will be SQ minus AQ at standard price. What is SQ minus AQ? 3 lakh minus 2,80,000. So that is 20,000 into what is my standard price? 1. So 20,000, favorable or adverse? Favorable. Why? Because I have actually used lesser. So now we can check the LHS versus RHS. Is material price variance plus usage variance equal to my cost variance? Yes. So this is one good check you can do to see whether your answers are correct or not. Simple. I hope the clear concept is clear now. All right. Let's move to the next illustration now. Illustration number 3. Okay. Now, the standard cost of a chemical mixture is as follows. 40% material A at rupees 20 per kg. So you can see here, it's saying standard cost because standard. So 40% material, sorry about that. 40% material A at rupees 20 per kg and 60% material B at rupees 30 per kg. So when you're using a particular input, 40% of that material will, that input will go to material A, 60% will go to material B. And this is the standard cost for each part. A standard loss of 10% of input is expected in production. So once you produce and get to the final, so if I'm using 1000 kg of raw material, that 10%, 100 kgs will go and only 900 kgs will be used up in the production. The cost records for a period showed the following usage. 90 kg material A was produced at 18 per kg and 110 kg material B at a cost of 34 rupees per kg. The quantity produced was 182 kg of good product. So this is my actual output. Okay. Calculate cost variance, price variance and usage variance. Okay. So what can you see from here? What all information is given? Standard information is given, standard price is given, as well as actual price and actual quantity is given, and actual output is also given. Okay. So again, we begin with our table. What is our table? Our table is like this. First is, so this was a small table where actual output, standard input and actual input. Now big table because we have two materials. Okay. So let's begin with our standard input for actual output. Always actual output. What is our actual output in this case? 182 kg. This is our actual output. Right? So what is our quantity here? Standard input for actual output. Okay. So how do we calculate that? Let's look at it. We have 182 kgs, correct? What we are saying is that for the input, you would have lost 10%, right? So your input would be x minus 10% of that x would give you 182 kg, correct? Okay, we have a standard output here of 182 kg, correct? Now we have input minus 10% of input is equal to 182 kg. So what is our input now? So we can say like, let input be x, for example, to make it easy. X minus 0.1x is equal to 182, correct? So x is equal to 182 divided by 0.9. What is that? 202 point. Got it? Perfect. Yes, just now. That's correct. So we have found the total input by adding that 10% loss. Because the question says 10% gets lost and then you get the output, right? So this 180 kgs is after the 10% loss. So we're adding up that 10% loss and we get 202.22 kgs. Any questions? Any doubts here? Any doubts? Shall I proceed? Thank you, Justin. How about the others? Clear. Okay. So that gives me 202.22 kg. Now if I go back to the question, it says 40. Please repeat. Okay, Khatija. So what is the question saying? Question saying that we have produced 182 kgs. Step number one, we have to find out the standard input. How will you find out the standard input? It's not given in the question. We have to find it. What is given in the question is there is a standard loss of 10% of input in the production. So from this, we can get to know if we add that loss of 10%, we end up getting 202.22222% kgs. From this, if you reduce 10%, if you do a minus 10%, it will give me 182 kgs. So this gives me my total input that I would have used to generate my 182 kgs of output. If I put it in words, my output is 182 kgs. That is, no, let's put it like my input is 202.222 kgs. There is a loss of 10%. That gives me an output of 182 kgs. So this what I have calculated is my standard quantity required for actual output of 182. Is it clear, Khatija? Okay. So now we need to know for A and B. 202.222 is total standard quantity. We need to know it for A and B. What does it say? A uses 40%. So A will be equal to this into 40%. Correct? Let me type it 200.22 into 40%. It will give me 202.2222 into 40. 80.9. Perfect. And what will be my B? B is 60%. So 202.22 into 60%. That will give me 202.22 into 60%. 121.3332. Is everybody clear so far? How we got A and B? This is the input. Calculation of standard input or output. Input for actual output. Clear? Okay. So this is giving us the component. So we can go and place these amounts here, 80.88 and the actual output to make it more clear, 182 kgs. B is how much? 121.3332. Okay, clear? Everybody clear with this? Standard input for actual output, always, first step. Shall I proceed? Clear. Okay. Now, coming to the rate. What is my rate? It's already given here, 20 per kg and 30 per kg. So keep this as 20 and 30. So what is my standard amount? Quantity into rate, and similarly for B. Okay. Now let's go for the actual input. How much did we actually end up using? Actually, we have used 90 kgs and 110 kgs. 90 kgs and 110 kgs. Right? And what is our rate? Rate is given to be 18 and 34. 18 and 34. These are our actual amounts. Okay. This is my total here. This is my total input used. Total amount. I have used 200 kgs. And this is my total amount. Now, well, as everybody understood what we have done, step number one, standard input for actual output, actual input for actual output. Standard input we did not have, but we had the actual output. So we did a reverse calculation and calculated the input SQ, which came to 202.22 kgs. But we have used it for two materials. For material A, we have used 80.9. Material A, it will come to 80.9 standard. And for material B, it will come to 121.33. So this way we have got a standard quantity for actual output, and we have got the actual input for the actual output. Clear everybody? Shall I proceed to the next step? Clear, perfect. Okay, let's go. So here we can see for A and B, just a small table I have created. For A, we know what is the standard quantity, 80.8. For B, what is it? 121.332. This is just so that it's more clear because you're just starting off. In the exam and all, you don't have to do this. AQ, what is the actual quantity for A? 90. What is the actual quantity for B? 110. What is SP? 20. And what is for B? 30. What is AP? 18. And for B it is 24. Okay, this is just so that we can solve our questions now. So let's start with the first one, which is MCV. Then we have MPV and we have MV. What is MCV? Cost variance. Can somebody tell me the formula quickly in the chat box? Cost variance. Everyone tell me what is the formula for material cost variance? SQSP minus AQAP. Thank you. So what is that coming to? Coming to SQ into SP minus AQ into A for A. Okay. Oops, what's this? SQ into SP minus AQ into okay. 1 minute. So now it's getting 160. What is wrong with my formulas? SQ into SP minus AQ into AP. Just a minute. Into SP minus AQ into perfect. Yes. Okay. So now how did you get 160 adverse? Is this the same formula you have used? Can somebody tell me whether they have got these answers or no? What are your answers, everybody? Has everybody got this? Everyone? Okay, thank you, Amit. What happened to the others? Okay, thank you, Jasna. So can you tell me whether it is favorable or adverse for A? Hello? Okay, let me make another column here. SQ into SP, which is 1617 minus 90 into, right, 16. Okay, so just to give you more clarity that this is the standard and this is the actual. So Jasnath says adverse. What about the others? What happened? Why is there no response in the chat box? Hello? Is it clear? Is there any confusion? Clear. Thank you, Neetu. What about the others? Okay, I'll proceed. So can you tell me whether this is adverse or favorable? Is this amount adverse? Okay. Jasnath says adverse. How about the others? Okay, perfect, Neetu. What about B? Is it adverse or favorable? Shan says adverse. Perfect. So these are adverse. All right. So I'll bring this back here. Now, what is material price variance? Quickly, tell me the formula. This is the last one. We will just take a small, quick 5-minute break. I think everybody is exhausted. Okay. So, SP minus AP into AQ. Perfect. SP minus AP into AQ. Right? So, that will be how much? SP minus AP into actual quantity. You always pay for the actual quantity. That's giving me 180. And for B, it is SP minus AP into AQ. So that will give me, can somebody tell me, is it favorable for A? Yes, perfect. And is it favorable for B? No, perfect. So it is adverse. Great. Last one. Usage variance. Quickly. Formula. SQSP minus AQSP. ASQ minus AQ into SP. Perfect. SQ minus AQ into SP. So this will be SQ minus, oops, SQ minus AQ into SP. And this will be, please tell me your answers in the chat box. Let's make it more interactive. SQ minus AQ into SP. Are these your answers? Is it favorable for A? Is it favorable? Adverse. Perfect. And is it adverse for B? Favorable. Perfect. So now we can cross verify these answers by seeing whether 180 plus 182 minus is giving me 2.2, which is the same as cost variance. Verified. LHS is equal to RHS. And then 440 plus 339, it's giving me 100.004. So that is the same as the cost variance. So it is verified. Is everybody clear here? All good? Shall we proceed to the last question for material, or do you want to take a small 5-minute break? Shall we proceed to the next question? Everybody's okay? Okay, perfect. So the last question for material cost is illustration 4. ABC Limited produces an article by lending two basic raw materials. Yes. By lending two basic raw materials. It operates a standard costing system, and the following standards have been set for raw materials. Material A 40% at the standard price of rupees 4, and material B 60% at a standard price of rupees 3. So standards have been given. Yeah. The standard loss again is 15% here. During April, the company produced 1700 kgs of finished output. The position of stock and purchases for the month of April are as under. Stock on 1st April, stock on 30th April, and purchases during the month. So you can see this is a detail that is given for the month of April. We have the opening stock, we have the closing stock, and we have the purchases. For material A, we have 35 kgs present at the beginning of the month, 5 at the end of the month, 800 kgs produced, purchased, and 3,400 rupees was spent for this purchase. The opening stock of the material is valued at the standard price. So what is our standard price here? So this is the valuation for the opening stock. Calculate the following: price variance, usage variance, and yield variance, and mix variance. So yield and mix is something we haven't calculated yet. So let's quickly do a practice on that. And the total material cost variance. So let's begin. Let's go to our Excel. So what we can remember, what we have learned is that first we will always look at the standard input for the actual output, then the actual input for the actual output. And now because we have to calculate mix variance and yield variance, we will also have to calculate something called as the revised actual input for the actual output. Okay, that is the mix. We change the proportion of it. So let's begin. First step, calculation of standard input for the actual output for A. So what does it say? we have, what is the actual output? 1700 kgs of finished output, right? And there is a loss of 15%. So let's calculate the total input now. Just for clarity, we know that x let it be the input, minus 0.15x is equal to 1700 kgs. Correct? So x is equal to 1700 divided by 0.85. X is equal to 2000 kgs. Right? So our input is 2000 kgs. There is a loss of 15%. It will give me 300 kgs. And then there is a total output of 1700 kg. All clear? All clear, everybody? Okay. Now, for A, what does it say? 40%. So, 2000 kgs into 40%. 800. Thank you, just now. And for B, it is 2000 kgs into 60%, right? 1200. Perfect. So let's go here and put in our information. Quantity is 800. Quantity is 1200. Rate is given 4 and 3. So what is our total amount? 800 into 4. And 1200 into 3. Now let's go to our quantity here for actual input. So what is the question saying? Question is not giving us clarity directly on what is the actual input. Instead, it has given opening stock plus closing stock plus purchases. So what you know, we can now make the difference to see what is the amount of goods consumed during the year. Okay, so how do you see the material consumed? So we can say 35 kgs plus 800 kgs minus 5 kgs. That is opening plus purchase minus closing will give me consumed. Isn't it? Clear, everybody? Okay. Apart from Jasnath, nobody is responding. I hope everybody is listening. Okay. Thank you, Shilpa. So that gives me 830 kgs. And for B, it is what? 40 plus 50 minus 1200. 40 plus 1200 minus 50. How much is that? 1190. Everybody clear? Thank you, Jasnath. How are the others? Why is nobody else responding? Everybody's clear, right? Any confusion, any doubts? Please mention it in the chat box. I want everybody to participate. Thank you, Nida. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Keep responding, keep answering the questions so that you're also constantly working on the questions. Right. So now we have actual input. We have found it as 830. But now there is a small trick in this question. What is the small trick? The opening stock of this goods is valued separately, and the remaining goods are valued at 3,400 rupees. Correct. because whatever has been purchased is what is valued at 3,400 rupees total, but the opening stock is valued at standard price. So here, when we will look at our sheet, correct, we'll have to split our quantity into two parts. One is the opening stock. Now, what does that mean? Yes, we have consumed 830 kgs, but out of that 830 kgs, 35 kgs has been consumed from the opening stock. So when you are doing costing in your books, at that time, 35 kgs will be used, right? That will be used at your standard quantity, standard rate, which is 4, standard cost, which is 4 rupees. So when you go here, 35 kgs will be at my standard rate itself. But the remaining na, 830 minus 35, which is 795. That will be at my actual cost. What is my actual cost? 3,400 by 800. Got it? This is my actual cost, which I have used right now. This is the trick part of the question, where you'll have to split your consumption into two components, partially which is at the cost of the standard rate itself, and partially which is at the cost of your actual goods, actual cost paid for that purchase during the year. Everybody clear? Okay, perfect. So let's do the similar thing for B. So B also we have used totally 1190. But how much of this 1190 pertains to the opening stock? Nida says 40. How about the others? 40. Because total 40 has been utilized. Right? You've used 1190 more than the opening. So 40 is your at standard. So it will be at 3. So the remaining is 1190 minus 40 which we have consumed. This will be at the standard actual rate, which is 3,000 rupees divided by 1200. 2.5. Thank you, Justin. Everybody clear with this, the split? Why we could not take directly this 4.25 for both? Because the question says that opening stock was valued at standard rate itself. So we cannot allocate this 4.25 to the opening because opening is brought forward from the previous months, right? So that will be allocated at the old price itself, which is the standard price. So that is the actual cost in your situation. All right? All clear, everybody? The reader. Should I proceed? Okay. So now we get the amount here. 35 into 4, that's 140, 3378, 120, and 2875. All right. Now coming to our next part, which is the different part, which is revised actual input. So we have our total quantity here, isn't it? And we have our actual quantity. So now so we will split it in for material A and material B. So how will you do it here? 2020, which is our total units used in the proportion of standard. It is 800 by 2000. That gives me 808 units. and over here I will be saying 2020 into 1200 by 2000 units. That will give me 1212 units. So this is my actual input at the standard. Here, all clear, everybody? The rate and all we don't need to mention because we just want to see the revised actual input. All right. So once you have filled up all these details, we can proceed with our answer. What is our answer here? So let's bring up all the details here. SQ. What is our SQ? 800. What is our AQ? AQ is actually 795 plus 35, which is 830. SP, what is SP? So SP here we have two, sorry, one only, 4. And AP we have 2. So we can't really mention the details here because it will get a little confusing. So what we can do is let's directly proceed with the answers and do it as it goes. Now let's go for A. Quickly tell me what's the formula for cost variance? Material cost variance. Quickly. Thank you. Q into SP minus PQ into EP. Okay, so how do we do this? What is SQ? So it's already we've done SQ into SP minus EQ into AP. So we have 140 minus 3378. Ma'am, can you say how did you get 808? Sure, Shilpa. So when we decided to calculate the revised actual quantity, we will take the total input that we have used, which is 2020 units. And we will prorate it as per our standard mix, which is 800 by 2000 and 1200 by 2000. So this is nothing but our, if you see the formula here, it is 2020, which is our total, into B87 by B9, which is 800 by 2000. And similarly, this one is 2020 units, which is our actual units we have used at the standard rate, 1200 into 2000. So we are just making our actual input into the standard mix proportion. Here, Shilpa? Okay, perfect. Okay, so here we already have our information. So we have done our actual cost, which is 3200 minus 140 minus 3378, because both of these belong to A. Okay, and both of these belong to B. Okay, so we will take both. So all clear here, 318.75. Is that what everybody has gotten? Is this favorable or adverse? Adverse, correct. Oh, sorry. I put it on the chat box. So this is adverse. Let's look at B. B is 3600 minus 120 minus, that is again giving us an adverse answer. Correct? No, that's giving us favorable. Correct? Total is coming to 286.25. Everybody with me here? So total is adverse or favorable? Total is adverse, Neetu. Are you sure? Total will be favorable because our favorable is more, right? So total will be favorable. Okay? Okay, quickly. Price variance formula. Quickly tell me the price variance formula. SPAP into AQ. Perfect. Okay. What does that come to? What is our standard price? So here we will have 200 because we have two prices. We have two actual prices. So let's do for the first one. SP minus AP, SP minus AP into AQ, which is our actual quantity. 0, because our SP is equal to AP. For the second one, SP minus AP into AQ, 795. Is this favorable or adverse? Adverse. Thank you. Now, next, SP minus AP into AQ. So here we'll have 3 minus 3, again 0, into 40. So we don't have to bother. The next one will be 3 minus 2.5 into 1150, which gives me 575, which is favorable. Okay, all clear? And the total will be favorable or adverse? Total will be favorable or adverse, everybody? Favorable. Perfect. Okay, next, usage variance. What's the formula? Quickly, quickly. Usage variance. Formulas in the chat box. SQ minus AQ into SP. Perfect. So this will be SQ minus AQ, which will be SQ minus AQ. We have it down in the total into SP, and here we have SQ minus AQ, the total into SP. Can everybody tell me favorable or adverse? Adverse. Next is favorable. The total is 90, which is adverse. Okay, perfect. Now we'll go to the main one, which is the material mix variance. And tell me, somebody tell me the concept of mix variance. It's the difference between which two? RSQ and AQ. Perfect. So RSQ minus AQ at AP or SP? Perfect. So what is our RSQ here? We have found it to be 808 minus what is our actual 830 into SP 4. For B it is 1212 minus actual 1190 into B. Okay, this is adverse, stable. So our total comes to 22, which is adverse. All clear? Perfect. Okay, yield variance formula quickly. Yield is the difference between which two? SQ and RSQ. Okay, so SQ minus RSQ into P. So that will be 800 minus 808. The standard price is 4. And this one will be SQ minus RSQ to standard price is minus this. That will be B, and all these things are adverse. Why? Because in every situation, our standard quantity is lower. The actual is higher. So I hope everybody was clear with these concepts. Nobody had to mug up any formulas, and material cost variance is completely clear. Are we good to proceed? Any questions, any doubts, anywhere where you feel that you are not able to follow or you're not able to understand properly? Everybody got all the answers? Everybody was able to follow? Shall I proceed with the labor cost variance? Okay, perfect. All right, so let's proceed with the next topic, which is labor cost variance. Okay, so now I'll be very quick with this. I'm not going to spend time like material variance because this is something very similar to material variance. So just for comparison purpose, I have brought material cost variances also. So labor cost variance has three components: labor rate variance, labor efficiency variance, and labor idle time variance. Labor efficiency variance has mixed variance and yield variance. So giving you a direct comparison, material cost variance and labor cost variance, same concept, rate minus quantity. But over here, instead of output and input units, we have hours because it's labor. So we will use hours instead of quantity. So instead of SQ, it will become SH, which is our hours. And instead of AQ, it will become AH, which is our actual hours. Point number one. Labor rate variance and material price variance, same concept. Price variance, we subtract SP minus AP. Here we will subtract SR minus AR. So instead of price, we call it rate. That's the only difference. Everything else remains the same. It will be at the actual hours, not at the standard hours, because you will pay for the actual hours only. But remember, actual hours paid, because there might be a situation where he's sitting idle and he's not working, but we will not consider that here. For the total hours he was sitting there, even idle, that all will be considered, and you will pay for the total hours he was there. So that is labor rate variance. Then we have labor efficiency variance. Efficiency is very similar to usage variance, where we will compare the standard hours versus the actual hours. And then we have labor idle time. There is just the difference between the actual hours worked minus the actual hours you have paid for. Because you will generally pay for the total day. 8 hours he was there, but for 2 hours he was sitting and sipping tea. So we will have to remove that 2 hours because he was idle at that. So that will be our idle time variance. Under efficiency variance, we have mix variance and yield variance. Mix, what did I tell you was mix between actual and the revised actual. Similarly here, instead of quantity, it's hours. So actual hours minus revised actual hours. Yield is what? Between standard and revised. So standard hours minus revised standard hours. Overall, this is the comparison between labor and material. So you have to be, so if your material is clear now, that's why I spent a lot of time in material, because I want to now move with these concepts smoothly. I'm not going to spend too much time with the concepts here. So just what you need to remember is, instead of actual price there and standard price, it is standard rate and actual rate. And instead of actual quantity and standard quantity there, it is standard hours and actual hours. Okay. Now the only new thing in labor is this. You have something called real hours worked and hours in the factory. Like I said, he could be in the factory for 8 hours. That is called the actual hours I've paid for it. That, okay, great. You work for 8 hours, you get 8 hours. But in that 8 hours, if 2 hours he was chilling and not doing the work, that will become a waste of time. It's an idle time. So that's not a real hours. So that is separately shown here as actual hours worked for actual output and actual hours paid. Okay. Now, how do we utilize these components into our formulas? Now, coming to the first one, which is labor cost variance, which is our standard cost minus our actual cost. Same as material cost. So it will be SH into SR minus AH into AR. Now, please remember when to use actual hours paid and when to use actual hours worked. Whenever money is being paid, you are talking about a cost, we will use actual hours paid, because that is what is paid, right? You will not go and see how much time you're sitting idle or anything. You have paid for the entire 8 hours you was in the factory. So this labor cost variance, we will calculate at actual hours paid, not worked. Here we do not consider the idle time. Idle time will be separately considered in the idle time variance. So this is our labor cost variance. So let's look at a quick example. We have to perform a job of creating one car. The standard hours to produce one car is 1000 hours. The standard wages paid for it is 50 rupees per hour. However, the workers worked only 900 hours, out of which 100 hours were idle time and were paid 40 rupees per hour. Calculate the variance. Standard rate was what? It's said to be 50 rupees per hour. Actual rate is what? 40 rupees per hour. Standard hours taken to make one car, 1000 hours. Actual hours, it is 800 hours. Where is it? Worked only for, okay. So this is actual hours worked. And actual hours star is the one which we need. The star that we need is always the star. So star is the actual hours we paid for. For entire 900 hours we paid. But actual hours worked is 800 hours. So this is the information you have perceived from this question. So cost variance is standard cost minus actual cost. Standard cost is SH into SR. Actual cost is AH star into AR. 1000 into 50 minus 900 into 40. What does that give us? 3000 minus 36,000. That gives me 14,000. So clearly our actual is lesser. So this is definitely a favorable situation for us. All clear here? Any doubts? Is everybody following? Clear. Perfect. All right. Now let's get into labor rate variance. Labor rate variance is standard rate minus actual rate. for actual hours paid. So remember, actual hours paid. You don't have to take worked here because worked is separate. Okay. Here we'll have to take the total hours we have been paid for. So what is standard rate minus AR into AH star? So 50 minus 40, we have 50 as a standard rate, actual rate is 40 into 900 hours. So we know that there's a rate variance of 10 rupees. We have paid them 10 rupees lesser. So there is a benefit there, right? So 10 rupees into 900, which is 9,000 rupees, which is definitely favorable for us because we have paid lesser. Now coming to labor efficiency variance, similar to material usage variance. Is it clear here, guys? Rate variance, similar to price variance. Okay, perfect. Now coming to labor efficiency variance arises due to deviation in working hours from the standard working hours. So how much you should have worked versus how much you have actually worked. So here we will not take paid, here we will take work because here we are talking about efficiency. So if he was sleeping for 2 hours, we need to know he was sleeping for 2 hours. We will not be considering that 2 hours as worked because we are looking at efficiency, how much you have utilized. So, and again at standard rate. Why? Because whenever you're talking about efficiency, you will always take standard rate because rate variance has already been separately calculated. And we will only consider actual work because actual hours work because we want to see the real efficiency. And efficiency cannot consider the idle time. So what will this be? SH minus AH, not the star, not the star, without the stars. Without the star is worked into SR. So efficiency variance is 1000 hours, which is the standard, minus 800 hours. So that is 900 minus the 100 hours that is idle. So if you go back to the question, 100 hours he was idle out of the 900 hours. So we are going to consider only 800 hours into 50 rupees, which is our standard rate. So what does this come to? 200 hours into 50 rupees. So 10,000. So how much is this? Is this favorable? Yes. Because he has completed the job in 800 hours, which is great. Now, coming to labor mix variance. So similar to labor mix variance is similar to material mix variance. That was actual minus revised actual. So here again we have our standard hours that we should have used 3 hours for A, 2 hours for B, total of 5. Actual hours worked 4, 6 for B. So we will calculate the revised actual, which is 10 into the 3 by 5 and 10 into 2 by 5. So that will become 6 hours and 4 hours. So we get a revised actual hours and actual hours. The difference between these two will give me my material labor uh, mix variance. So again here, actual hours worked because anything. So if I go back to the chart, efficiency and anything under efficiency, always it will be actual hours worked because we're talking about efficiency. Whenever it is about payment, it will be actual hours paid. Okay. So here also again you will consider actual hours worked and not actual hours paid. So what is the mix variance for A? 6 minus 4 into 50 rupees, which is 2 into 50 rupees, which is 100 rupees, which is definitely a favorable situation because you have worked for 4 hours, which is less, right? That is favorable. And here again, it is 2 into 50 rupees. But this is a situation which is adverse because you should have worked ideally like at 4 if you would have done it at a standard basis, but you worked 6. So you've worked more, so that will definitely be an adverse situation. Then we have the labor yield variance. Yield variance is what? Difference between standard hours and revised standard hours. That is revised actual at standard rate. So again, let's take the formula. 3 minus 6 and 2 minus 4 at 50 rupees because 50 rupees is our standard rate. So that will be what? 3 into 50 rupees, which will be 150 rupees. And here it will be adverse because our revised actual is lower. And 2 minus 4 into 50 rupees will be 2 into 50 rupees, which is 100 rupees. Which will be also adverse because we have ended up using more. So this is an adverse situation for us. So yield variance. This is an important one, idle time variance. Idle time variance is what? What is the actual hours you have worked minus what is the actual hours you have been paid for at the standard rate. And it is pretty obvious. If you have an idle time, it is going to be adverse for you. There is no thinking about it. So you have wasted time. That time is an adverse time. So we know that 900 hours we were in the factory, 800 hours we have worked actually, 100 hours we have wasted. That will give me 100 into 50, which is 5,000 rupees. So 5,000 rupees will always be adverse. Okay. Now, how do we cross verify? So if you go back above, labor cost variance has three components, rate and efficiency. And one more new thing here is idle time, which we don't have in material cost. So all these three together should give me labor cost variance. So what did we get as a labor cost variance? Labor cost variance we got as 14,000 favorable. Labor rate variance we got as 9,000 favorable. Labor efficiency we got as 10,000 favorable. And labor idle time we got as 5,000 adverse. So what is our total? So 14,000, correct? 14,000 was favorable. This should be equal to how much? 10,000 price variance. No, 9,000 price variance. Rate variance, right? What is our rate variance? 9,000 favorable. What is our efficiency variance? 10,000 favorable. And our idle time is minus because it's adverse. 5,000 adverse. Is it tallying? 10 plus 9, 19. 19 minus 5, 14. So that is definitely a 14,000 favorable. This way we have matched our LHS and RHS. Everybody clear with labor cost variance? Any confusions? Everybody understood actual hours worked, actual hours paid, labor idle time variance. Okay, clear, perfect. So now let's proceed with our questions. So we have illustration 6. Illustration 6 on page number 29. Here. This is our illustration 6. So let's look at the question. The standard output of product X is 25 units per hour in manufacturing department of a company employing 100 workers. The standard wage rate per labor hour is 6 rupees. In a 42 hours week, the department produced 1040 units of X despite 5% of the time paid being lost due to an abnormal reason. The hourly wages actually paid was 6.2 rupees, 6 rupees, 5.7 rupees respectively to 10, 30 and 60 of the workers. Calculate the relevant labor variances. Okay. So here we can see that we have the standard output of 25 units and the department is using currently 100 workers. The standard wage rate per labor is also given to be 6 rupees. This is a standard labor rate. In a 42 hours week, the department produced 1040 units. So this is our actual output. Despite 5% of the time being paid lost due to an abnormal reason. So this is a idle time. The hourly, so in a 42 hours week, how many workers we had? 100 workers. 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. 100 workers working for 42 hours, but in that 5% is lost due to abnormal reasons. The hourly wages paid was for 10 workers at 6.2, 30 at 6, and 60 at 5.7. So let's go to the question and see. What is our actual output? 1040 units. So what is the standard hours for the actual output? We know that the standard output for product X is 25 units in 1 hour, correct? And the department has produced 1040 units. So 1 hour is 25 units. So 1040 units will be 41.6 hours. Correct? But we have 100 workers. So how many 100 25 units can be produced by one worker. Okay, so what we need to be clear here is that 25 units are definitely produced in 1 hour, but in this 1 hour, we are having 100 workers being deployed. So that means we don't have just 1 hour, we have 100 hours, because if each employee is working for 1 hour, that means we have 1 hour from each person. Right? So that becomes a total of 100 hours at the time. So here it will be 100 hours, right? So 100 hours it takes to produce 25 units. To produce 1040 units, it will take 1040 into 100 divided by 25. It will be 4160 hours. Okay. Now, it will be 4160 hours. Standard rate is given to be 6. So SR into asset is equal to 4160 into 6, which is 24,960. Now let's get to our actuals. Actual we have to divide it because we have 3 different rates for 3 different workers. So we have 10, 20 and 60. Right? 10, 30 and 60. What is the actual hours paid? Remember, we have to consider paid as well as worked because we have to calculate different types of variances. So paid is total, not considering the idle time. So what is the total hours paid for? That will be for the entire 42 hours, right? Isn't it? So 10 into 42 hours. Similarly, 30 into 42 hours. Because you have 42 hours in a week. We are calculating the production of a week. Then we have 2520 hours. Now, we have something called idle time hours. That is, what does the question say? There is an idle time of 15%. So we're going to take actual hours worked into 15%. 5%, sorry. 420 into 5%. Similarly for worker set 3, set 2 and set 3. So this becomes our idle time hours because it said in the question that 5% of the time was lost due to abnormal reasons. If it was normal reasons, then we would not consider. Actual hours paid will be actual hours worked. Then we have 420 minus 21, 1197 and 2394. So this becomes our actual hours worked. These are actual hours paid with the star and this is actual hours worked. Then what is our rate? Rate is given to be 6.26 and 5.7. into 6 and 5.7. So what is our amount paid? Will amount paid be 420 into 6.2 or 399 into 6.2? 420, correct. That is our total. Okay. So we can get our total here. We have a total. So we have gotten this. Let's leave this. Labor cost variance. Quickly tell me the formula. Formula. Let's switch into HR. SR minus AH into. So we have already given SH into SR here, and we have already calculated AH into AR, which is coming to 24,520. All right. That gives me a total of 432. So clearly here, standard is more than your actual. So we have a favorable variance. Labor rate variance, everybody? Formula? Yes, SR minus AR into AH. SR minus AR into. Okay. So what will this be? Here we have multiple rates. So how will we do it? Okay. So we can do like set 1, set 2. First one, 6 minus 6 minus 0.2 into which AH? AH worked or AH paid for rate variance? Correct. AH paid. Give me 4, 4, that is step 2, R minus 2, R space. What happened? Yeah, no, that's correct. Then we have SR minus AR into Correct. Now, right? So this is definitely adverse. This is nothing. This is it. That gives me a total of 672, which is perfect. Now moving to efficiency variance. Quickly tell me the formula. Formula for efficiency variance. SH minus second. So, okay. So we have 1, 2, 3. No, I don't think we need 1, 2, 3 because this is yes, we do need. Okay. Standard hours. So then we'll have to find out the standard hours, right? We calculated the actual hours. You can just add a column. Or we could just take the total. Okay, so we can take the total and match it. That will be total standard hours minus actual hours into standard. Standard. That is 1000. We did not split it. We found it directly for the total. So what do you think? This is favorable or adverse? It is favorable because we have taken lesser hours. Now coming to idle time variance. So here we have to find the difference between actual hours worked and actual hours paid. So we have paid for 4,200 hours and we have worked for 3,990 hours. So what is the formula for idle time variance? Actual hours worked minus actual hours paid. And what do you think? Will we use standard rate or actual rate? Standard rate. Perfect. So what is our actual hours worked? 3990 minus 420 into oops, minus standard rate 1200 and factors. All clear so far? Any questions, any doubts with this particular question? Shall we proceed to the next one? Any questions so far? Thank you, Neetu. How about the others? Yeah. Okay, perfect, Nana. So I guess let's move to the next one, which is it's quite a big one. Shall we take a small 5-minute break and then resume? Because it's quite a little big question. Okay, so now it is 4:55. Shall we meet at 5 o'clock? Okay, so let's meet at 5. Let's resume at 5. All right, see, and I think session is only till 5:30. So another half an hour we'll take for this particular question and we'll close it for today. Is that good? Is everybody back? Please let me know in the chat box. Just one more question and then we'll stop for today. Okay, let's begin. Okay, perfect. Let me share my screen. We are looking at illustration 7. Okay, illustration 7, let's begin. NPX Limited uses standard costing system for manufacturing of its product X. Following is the budget data given in relation to labor hours for manufacture of 1 unit of product X. Labor, skilled, semi-skilled, unskilled hours used, standard. Okay, this is standard system. So when you say budget, a budget is like a stand. Standard hours used for skilled labor is 2 hours, semi-skilled is 3 hours, unskilled is 5 hours. And rate is 6 rupees, 4 rupees, and 3 rupees. This is all standard. In the month of January, total 10,000 units were produced following other details. Skilled 18,000 hours, semi-skilled 33,000 hours, unskilled 58,000 hours. Total 1,09,000. Rate 7, 3.54. Amount 1,26,000, 1,15,000, 2,32,000, total of 4,73,000. So this is the actual hours that were used to produce 10,000 units. Idle hours were there. So that means is the total hours paid. So if 18,000 hours were paid, out of this is the abnormal idle hours. 500 hours for skilled, 700 for semi-skilled, and 800 for unskilled. Calculate the labor variances and also show the effect on labor rate variances if 5,000 hours of skilled labor are paid at 5.5 rupees per hour and balance were paid at rupees 7 per hour. So I don't think there is any thing new in this question, but it's a good practice for us to close this concept of labor cost variance. So let's begin. We will begin always with filling up our details. So what is our standard hours? We have our so we know that 2 hours is used for each unit of product X. So we have actually produced, always remember, actual output. In the question, they might give you that the standard budgeted output was 15,000 units. Don't calculate your standard for that 15,000 units. Always remember actual output. Always actual output. So 10,000 units into standard rate. So that will be 10,000 into, correct? Then we have 3 and 5. That will be 10,000 into 3 and 10,000 into 5. Okay, this is the total number of hours. The rate is already given. Please calculate by yourself. Let me know when you find the answers before me. Please put it in the chat box. Yeah. So rate is 6, rate is 4, rate is 3. Okay. Amount 20,000 into 6. Okay. Multiplied. Now coming to actual hours. Actual hours paid already given here 18,000, 33,000, 58,000. 53,000, 33,000, sorry, and 58. What is actual hours worked? What do you think actual hours worked would be? 18,000 minus idle time. That's 500 hours. Then we have 30,000 minus 700 hours. Then we have 58,000 minus. This is the actual hours worked. Rate 7, 3.5, and 4. Amount will be always paid for the paid hours into rate. Okay, so we can get our total amount paid, total hours worked, total hours paid, total amount, standard rate, standard amount, standard total hours. Okay, now coming to revised standard hours. So, can somebody tell me in the chat box what will be the revised hours worked for skilled? Anybody, please tell me in the chat box what would be the formula. Everybody? What happened? What's the confusion? Okay, first question. For revised actual hours, will we use hours worked or will we use hours paid? Please let me know in the chat box. Will we use hours worked or hours paid? Hours worked. Thank you, Neetu. Perfect answer. Now, this hours worked, we will revise it into which proportion? In the standard hours, correct? Perfect. So now tell me, what will be the revised standard hours for skilled, semi-skilled, and unskilled? Let me know in the chat box. Just tell me the formula. What into what divided by what? What happened? What is the confusion? 21,400. Okay, perfect. So this is how did we get this? We take the total hours and total hours worked and we multiply it in the ratio of the standard hours required. That will give us 21,400. Similarly, we will do for all three into 30 by 1 lakh. This will be into 50 divided by 1 lakh. That will give me my revised standard hours. Clear? So you can see that the total is the same, but it's just that the proportion has changed. Okay. Now coming to the rate. What is the rate? We don't have to worry about. We just stick to this revised standard hours. Idle hours is anyway given here. Let's just write it down again. 500, 700, and 800. So this will help us in the labor idle time variance. 700 and 800. Okay. Perfect. So now I'm not going to fill in that. Let's directly jump into the total. Labor cost variance. What is the calculation? Quickly tell me in the chat box. Formula. Come on. Thank you, Neetu. SH into SR minus AH into. Thank you. Perfect. So we already know this. This is what SH into SR we already have here, minus AH into AR, which is this. So that gives us 6,000. Similarly for the wrist too, isn't it? So can somebody tell me, is this adverse, favorable, variance? First is adverse, sure. Then very favorable, and then adverse. So if you take the total, we get 83,500 adverse. You see how the table helps us to speed up these calculations. Okay, so that's why I always draw the table and keep in the exam. Now, labor rate variance, quickly tell me the formula. Thank you, Neetu. How about the others? Why is nobody else answering? Into AH. The more you practice here, easier it is for you in the exam. That's why I'm telling you to try to think. Remember, what did I say? Labor rate. Rate is the difference in the two rates. Standard rate, actual rate. At standard hours or actual hours. Rate is always paid for the actual hours. So actual hours paid. So SR minus AR into AH. Paid. So please try to think. Please keep thinking and put it in the chat box. It will help you for practicing for your exam. Okay. So SR is what? What is our standard rate here? 6 minus AR 7 into hours paid or hours worked for rate variance. AH star or AH? Hours paid. What about the others? Why not hours worked? Everybody else, come on. I hope everybody is following. Is there any doubts? All right, I'll proceed. That will give me 18,000. And this is adverse because it is more. What I have paid is more. Then for semi-skilled, I should have paid 4. I am paying 3.5. Definitely favorable for hours paid of 33. What's happening on this? Into 33,000 hours. So this is definitely favorable. I have paid less. Sure. Standard rate P minus 4. I'm paying more here. 1 rupee more into 58,000. Definitely adverse. What is my total? Adverse. Right? Coming to efficiency variance. Quickly, formula. Apart from me too, somebody tell me the formula. I need somebody to answer. Please try to remember, recollect, think, and put the answers in the chat box. What is efficiency variance? Difference between which two? Thank you, Mashu. Yes, SH minus AH into AR. Good. Minus AH into SR. And Mashuk, why have you taken standard rate? Thank you, Taslima. Perfect. Why not actual rate? So standard hours is how much? 20,000 minus actual hours. Will you take actual hours paid or actual hours worked for efficiency variance? Actual hours worked because it's efficiency. Thank you, Nada. Perfect, perfect. Good job. Into standard rate, 6. So this is definitely favorable for us because we have taken lesser amount of hours. Now, standard hours minus actual hours worked. So here we have worked for more hours. So this is definitely adverse for us. And for unskilled, we had to work for 50,000, but we have ended up working for 57,200. So that is again adverse. All right. So the total variance comes to 15,000. Now, idle time variance is very simple. Nothing but like your idle time, which is the difference between the two into standard rate, right? Always standard rate because you're talking about hours efficiency. So this will be 500 into standard rate, 6. Let's see, this works 2,800 and 2,400. And this will definitely be adverse because it is an idle time variance. Idle time variance will always be adverse. Now, mixed variance formula. What's the formula for mixed variance? RSH minus AH into SR. Perfect. Amount. What is our revised standard hours? Come to 21,400. But how much did we actually, again, worked or paid? Worked. Perfect. Thank you, Neetu. Into standard rate. So that is giving me 23,400. So if you go back to see whether it is adverse or favorable, 17,500 we worked, should have worked 21,400. Definitely favorable for us. Correct? Coming to the next one, semi-skilled. Should have worked maybe 32,100, but ended up working 32,300. Worked more, so that is adverse. Correct? Unskilled. Should have worked 53,500, has worked 57,200, more than what is needed. So, adverse. So, the total is positive, so we keep it as favorable. All clear? Okay, yield variance formula, quickly. Somebody tell me what is yield variance? SH minus RSH into SR. Perfect. Thank you. Perfect, everybody. Oh, perfect. So let's look at that. So what is our standard hours? We should have been 20,000. But what did we do when we revised 21,000? We still used more. So it's a adverse situation. How about semi-skilled? Let's look at that. 30,000 is what we should have used. What did we ended up using? Again, we done more. That's not a good situation. It is adverse. This is again adverse for us. And last one is for unskilled. So we have 50,000 we should have used. We ended up using again more, 53,500. So all three situations has been adverse for us because we, if you revise and see also, it's coming to So it is all an adverse yield variance for us completely. We get an yield variance of 27,300 and mixed variance of 11,500. One thing to cross verify would be to see whether mixed variance plus yield variance should be equal to efficiency variance. So efficiency variance is again 15,800 negative, and when we add 11,500 and 27,500 negative, it is also coming to 15,800. So we have done a good job with the calculations there. And then we know that rate variance plus efficiency variance should equal to our total cost variance plus our idle time. We have not totaled our idle time. Our idle time is actually negative, even though it's showing as positive. So if we add the 2, or add the 3, it is coming to 83,500. That is summing up to a total cost variance of 83,500. So in the exam, you know that there is totally a way to check the final answer. It shouldn't be an issue at all. As long as your concepts are clear. Because in the exam, they could ask anything. They could twist the question in very different ways and ask anything. So if you sit and mug up formulas there, it will become very difficult. If you know the concept of what is cost variance, what is price variance, what is rate variance, what is labor variance, what difference I need to take, it will automatically become easier for you in the exam. So I hope this session was fruitful to everybody. Everybody has understood and now remembers all the formulas without mugging them up, and can, you can now start practicing more questions from your side. And hopefully you should be able to get it. Tomorrow's session, we'll try to finish off fixed overheads and variable overheads. And that will close the chapter. And a couple of more questions we'll do, bigger questions, and we'll close the chapter. So everything good so far? Please let me know. Okay, perfect. So see you tomorrow then. Thank you everybody for today's session, and we'll resume tomorrow. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you everybody.